here to give you an introduction to the course readings tool in my uni and the basics to getting started creating or rolling over a list for your course. So I'm Jasmine. I am an academic support librarian at the University Library, and I'm joined today by Terza. So Terza, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yes, thank you, Jasmine. I'm Terza. I work with the course readings team. There's about 4 or 5 of us in the team that look after the course readings lists that are sent to us by the academics.
Yeah, great. So if you have any questions during session, just pop them into the Q&A section at the bottom of the screen, or if you have any comments or need anything repeated, just pop it into the chat. Before we begin getting into course readings, I'd just like to start by acknowledging and paying our respects to the Kaurna people, the traditional custodians whose ancestral lands we gather on. We acknowledge the deep feelings of attachment and relationship of the Kaurna people to country, and we respect and value their past, present, and ongoing connection to the land and cultural beliefs. So, as you probably know, course readings is a tool in my uni that's required for teaching staff to use when you're providing students with access to copyright and third-party material. So here I have set up a draft My Uni course. So course readings will be most easily accessible to you from the navigation menu. So if you just click into it in the course that you're preparing, and it can take a moment to load. So you'll be hit with the course readings welcome page. So the welcome page generally has a brief introduction and a link to our course readings page on the library website. It has a little bit of information about the course that you're creating a list for. So here it's connected to my sandpit, and then it'll provide you with 2 basic options for creating a list. So you can create a list from scratch, or you can roll over a reading list from an existing course. So let's have a look at rolling over first. So if you hit roll over, it'll come up with a search box where you can essentially enter the title or the course code for a previous reading list that you'd like to reuse. If we type in, as an example, say Nursing Practice 4, it will come up with all the previous iterations of that course and the reading lists associated. So if you have the course code, it can be quite useful to check against that to ensure you're rolling over the right list, or you can just search with that course code initially. So once you select the title, it will then provide some prompts on the screen where you can confirm, and then you can roll over the list into your course. So that will roll over all the previous readings, all the weekly sections, any textbooks that you have associated with the previous list, and then you can go in and start editing that list to update it. So let's look at creating a reading list from scratch rather than rolling over. So if you click on Create It in the My Uni course, it'll pop up with a title section. So the title is really the only information you have to provide when you're creating a list, and the title should correspond to your course name. So here, this is just has my sandpit and my ID number because that's the course that this reading list is connected to. It's optional to enter a description. You don't have to do that. So you can just click on Create. And it will pop up with some templates. So generally the 12-week section is the most popular. So that will provide you with a section at the top for a textbook, and then 12 weekly sections that you can add items to. If your course only has a textbook, we still encourage you to set up a list and have the textbook section, and then you can add that in after you've selected it. So let's look at the 12-week section. So once you select a template, it will open that in your course reading window. So here it has a pop-up that you'll see that's just reminding you to send your list and publish it for students, which we'll go over later. But basically you'll see a shell structure of a list here with no content added. So at the top, you'll have your reading list name, you'll have the status. So here we can see it's in draft, so it's not available for students. And then it will have the course that the list is associated to. If you click on more info, you'll see that the list is being prepared. You'll see when it was last updated, and you'll also see the items in the section, which we have none in at the moment. So let's get started and add some items to a list. So the main menu functionality up here, you can add items via there, Or if you have the sections already created, you can open the options menu and then you can add items with this menu here. So you can add items in a number of ways, the most common of which will be using library search. So let's find some different types of items that you can add to your list and pop them in. So we'll start with a journal article. So I want to find this article about Virginia Woolf. So you type in the title, you select search, and again, it can take a moment to load. But here we can see that it's popped up. So when you search, it will show you the item type. So we can see it's an electronic article. There's full text available. So if we select that article, because we've added it from week 1, it will automatically fill it into week 1. So then we can just click add. And then the article will appear in the weekly section. So you'll see again, it's an electronic article. You can see that the item is available and complete. And then students will be able to view it through the View Online link. So I'll just open that up and show you quickly. So then you'll be able to see the article through the provider. Students will be able to access a PDF. So let's look at adding a book. So if we go back, we do library search again, and then you have the title of the book that you would like to add. So here we can see the books come up as the first result, and this is an electronic book. So it's available online. So if we click into that one, again, it pre-fills to week 1, and you can select add. So a common issue that we can have with adding ebooks to a list is you can't always link directly to the chapter that you want students to read. So again, if you click View Online, we'll be able to open it here. So, sorry, I'll just accept and zoom out. So you'll be able to download a PDF of the book, or you can go to the table of contents, depending on the provider. And this chapter here, for example, we want the students to read. So I'm going to copy the title, and then back in course readings, where we have the citation in week 1, you can actually add a note to the item. So if we select edit item, it will come up with a menu on the right-hand side here, and you can see public note. So if I wanted to add a note saying, read the chapter Virginia Woolf's Transparent Cells, and then click save. And that will add a note to that item directing students what chapter to read. So that's a way to get around not being able to link exactly to the chapter. You can also do that for page ranges. So if you don't want them to read an entire chapter, if there's a specific section, you can add instructions for students that way. So let's add another item, but this time a print item that isn't available electronically. So again, I've entered the title of the book here into library search. And we can see here that we can see the book, Paper Darts, and we can see that it's located in the Bath Smith main collection. So it has a physical item available, but no electronic items. If we select that one, again, we're adding it to week 1, and we click add, you'll have a Q&A menu pop up. So depending on your needs for the item, there's a couple of different options that you can select. So if you'd like to move the item to our high use collection, you can tick that one, and that'll pop the item into high use so students can access it for shorter loan times. And if you don't require the book to be digitized, if it's purely for reference or recommended reading, you can select referring to the whole book, no digitization required. Or alternatively, if you did want a section of the book to be digitized, say you wanted a chapter, you can select I will submit a digitization request, and you can then enter the page range or the chapter that you require to be digitized. So I'm going to pop a high use collection tag in, as well as referring to the whole book with no digitization required. So as we click confirm, we'll be able to see that here. So we can see the book, we can see being prepared, so that will be processed by the course readings team. And we can see it's located in the Bath Smith main collection. So that's a basic overview of adding some different types of library materials to your list. You'll be able to see them all in the weekly section, and you can progress through the list and add different items as applicable for weekly needs. So up here, you can also see there's a textbook section. So say if this book here was actually the textbook for the course. So if you needed to move it, you could select the 3 dots. You can select Move Citation, and then you can see it's moving in this list. So you'd like to move it to textbook. And then that will appear in the textbook section. So it's really important to add some tags to your items so that students know how to use them, and the library also knows how to process them. So if you select Add Tag, you can add in a tag for the textbook. So say this was the textbook 2022, that will then appear as a tag on the item itself. Similarly for these down here, if this is required reading, you can add a tag for required reading. And then if this one is recommended reading, you can then add a recommended reading tag as well. So that just provides some more instructions for students, provides them with clarity about what they're meant to do with the different resources and so on. So now that we've added some library items, let's look at adding some web materials to the list. So in this week 1 section again, if we wanted to refer to an article, say, so I bookmarked one up here. Just take a moment to load. So say there's an article in the New Yorker that you wanted to link in your reading list. The library has a bookmarklet tool called Cited. So in your course readings window, if you select your user menu, so that'll have your initials in the top right-hand corner, and you scroll down to Cited and select it, you'll be able to see some information on it. So Cited is a bookmarklet tool that you can add to your browser. So using this button here, you grab it and drag it into your toolbar, and that sits there and allows you to use the tool with your course readings list. So I'll show you how that works. So say you want to reference this article here, make sure that you have your course readings list open in another tab, and then navigate to the web page that you want to reference. Click on the Cited icon, and a menu will pop up. So you'll see add this to my list, you'll see the title, you'll see that it's a website, and there'll be a link there. So you can select the list that you want to add it to. So this is my course. I want to add this to week 1, and then you can add and close. So your item was successfully added to the list. If you navigate back and you scroll down, you'll be able to see that you've added the web material there. So Cited's a really easy and functional way to add those materials that aren't available through library search, or maybe a YouTube video or a web page, and then they can then have tags and notes added to them as well for students to use. So let's look at adding a different type of item. So as I showed you, library search is the main functionality for adding library items, but you can also create an item. So if you click on create an item, it essentially allows you to create your own citation and add files to it. So say you have a chapter of a book that has been digitized that you have a PDF of, or if you have another document that you'd like to add for students to use, you can add in a title, so the required field, so draft title. If you select type and you say book chapter, and then you can upload a file of the material that you have. It's really important to note that any material that's uploaded this way, so any PDFs or attachment, won't be available to students until the course readings team has checked it. So the course readings team review all attachments for copyright compliance to make sure that they're provided in the correct way. So you can then click add, and that item will appear in your list and it will have the status of being prepared. So it will be checked by the course readings team and then be available in the list. So we've looked at adding tags, we've looked at adding some items. So one thing we'd really like to heavily emphasize is that you don't have to complete your entire list in one go. So you can add the key essential items, so items that are in need of being processed. So adding those tags, whether that's requiring the item to be moved to high use, say with the textbook, if this wasn't something that we had in the library collection, you could create the item. So you could enter in the title, the author, the type, or the available information that you have, including the ISBN. And you could then add the item to your list. And then if you wanted to add a tag for purchase request, you can add in a purchase request tag, and that will essentially send a request to the library that you want that item to be purchased for your course. So that's particularly useful for textbooks, or if there's another book or article, say, that you need for your course. You can also add a tag for interlibrary loan. So again, I'll show you there we go. So interlibrary loan requested. You'll be able to put through a request to have that item made available from another library. So we really heavily emphasize that you can add in those items first that need action. So if you need something to be purchased, if you need something to be digitized, we really encourage you to add those first few weeks of content. And then what we really recommend is sending the list for processing. So essentially, once you hit this, and I'll pop it through now, you can see it says list sent to the library to process. So that essentially notifies the library that you're ready for them to start actioning some of those requests. So anything that needs an interlibrary loan, anything that needs to be moved to high use, none of that can be processed until you've sent the list. The list doesn't need to be complete for you to do that. You can continue to add items during semester and they'll continue to be processed. But we really recommend you doing that as early as possible before the teaching period, so about 2 to 4 weeks out, so we can start getting to work to make sure that you have access to the items you need and that students have access to what they need from day one of teaching. So when you're coming up to the start of the teaching period, you'll also need to publish the list. So if you hit publish, this will make the list accessible to students. So if you don't hit publish, students won't be able to see the list in your course. You only need to publish the list once, and then you'll be able to see the status has changed here. So students can see the list and access materials. Up here, you'll be able to see that there's items in the sections. You'll see that the list is ready for processing because you've sent it through to the library. And you'll see the items that were sent that are being processed. So just check in. Terza, were there any additional comments you wanted to make around that process?
Yes, I just wanted to clarify on the tags. The tags that Jasmine is showing you, she has access to all the tags across course reading. So there's tags that are for student view, there's tags for that we use internally, and the textbook 2022 tag is actually an internal tag. So when you tag it,
sorry about that.
That's okay. When you tag it for your students, that's it, the textbook tag. Yep.
Yeah, fantastic.
Otherwise, yes, that's all I had to say.
Yeah, great. So I guess our key takeaways for this basic introduction are really emphasising for you to start your list early and to continue adding the items during semester. We know that it can be quite a busy time and you won't necessarily be able to complete the list in one, but you can start adding a few items, especially those ones that need to be processed or need to be purchased or digitised, and then we can get to work on sourcing them for you. Continue to add items during semester, and always remember that your list can be reused and edited. So once you've set up a comprehensive list for one of your courses, that list can then be reused in the subsequent teaching period. So you don't need to create one from scratch for every iteration of that course. You can update it and edit it as needed. So that's kind of some of the basic functionalities of using course readings. We also have a newly developed Introduction to Course Readings course. So I'll show you that briefly. So this course that I've seen a few of you are already enrolled in essentially is a one-stop shop for setting up a list. So we have 4 modules around creating a list and adding items, as well as reviewing and submitting your list for processing, and then publishing and sharing it with students. So if you go into the modules page, all of the content that I've gone through this morning is available in this course. So we have screenshots with step-by-step instructions that you can progress through slowly as needed and refer back to when you're setting up your list. There's also some additional information such as adding collaborators, further editing a list. So if you need to edit any of these sections, if you need to add in some different items, you'll be able to see all of that in the Edit a List page. I'll also point out quickly, if you're working in a course where you have tutors or other people who need to add items to the list, you can add them through this collaborators menu. So if we select on here, we can see this list, I'm the only collaborator at the moment. But if you select manage collaborators, you can enter the names or email addresses of people. So that could be a tutor, or if you're working with someone in LEI who would like to start setting up the list, they can be added via this menu here. Additionally, we also have the Course Readings webpage. So this is available from the library website in the Services for Teaching Staff area. So this page essentially provides some introductory information about course readings. It has a link to the introductory course, as well as some guidelines around what the library can provide with course readings, what we need from you around setting up a list and tagging it appropriately, as well as some frequently asked questions around creating a list, adding items to a list, adding requests to items, and sharing a list. So that's the basics that we were covering today. I'll stop sharing for a moment. And I'll get Terza to have a look through the chat to see if there's any Q&As or comments about that we need to clarify further.
We've just had a couple of questions. So we've had a question here about if we publish a list and then add other items, do these readings need to be republished? And the answer is no. If the list is already published, then anything new you add to the list will show, particularly if it's electronic material, it should show straight away. If it's something the course readings team need to work on, say if it's copyright material or something we need to digitise, it will show once we've finished that. So anything on the list that shows complete will be shown to the students straight away when the list is published. Then I think there was another question. It's a question about My Uni weekly content. So the question is, if readings are listed in My Uni weekly content for students, does completing this course reading list automatically update what is listed as readings in week to week in the My Uni pages? The course readings team don't have access to My Uni, so I'm a little bit hazy on the My Uni side. So I'm not sure exactly how the connection works, but I think if you want to have your course readings showing in My Uni with, say, a direct link, you'll need to use the permalink function. Otherwise, encouraging your students just to check course readings each week. If you're updating it weekly or adding extra things, we'd probably suggest if you get them to check it weekly. And if they click on the course readings button in My Uni, then that will take them through to the updated list. But I'm sure Jasmine will have more idea than I do on the My Uni end. Yeah,
sure. So if you're listing the readings in your My Uni page, you can list them with the title and the recommended reading, and you can create a link from course readings. We really don't recommend embedding any of the readings within your My Uni pages, as that's not compliant with copyright. You really need to make the material available via the course readings list. So I'll show you quickly how you can generate a link. So in here, in the reading list, if you click on the three dots and you select create a permalink, you'll be able to copy the link and you can then embed that in your My Uni pages. So if you have a week one readings page and you want to list them, you can create a link and that will link directly to the course readings list where students can click on it and access the reading directly. I think we had another question. So is there a way to export the course readings as a list or PDF? Yes, absolutely. I'll show you how to do that one again. So up here, If you click on the 3 dots at the top of the screen next to your course reading list title, you can click on export, and that'll provide you with some different formats. So you can do a Word file, you can do a PDF. So if you want to convert to a PDF, that will export your list. So it will show the items availability, it'll show tags, it'll show any of those notes and permalinks. And then you can click on export. And then it will download a copy of that. So if we open that up, you'll then be able to see, I'll zoom out a little so you can see that better. You'll see the course title, you'll see all the information there. You'll see the different sections. So week 1, we have the journal article here. We have the physical item, we have the web page, and that will have all the links embedded in the document as well. So you can also provide that to students or for your own use if you would like a copy of the list that way. So, is there anything else in there? Okay, I think that's all the questions for now. If you have anything else, pop it into the chat. We're happy to answer. Is there anything else that we haven't covered that you think would be appropriate, Tirzah?
No, I think you've covered it quite well.
Great. So I'll just show you here. So again, this is a really basic overview of setting up a list and rolling over a list and adding those items and key tags. But if you have any more complicated or comprehensive questions that you need addressing, you can always contact us for further support. So we encourage you to look at the course and those FAQs to see if that answers your questions. But if not, the course readings team are always available for help. So you can contact them via the coursereadings@Adelaide email address. But for all other MyUni support needs, you can also consult the MyUni Learning Centre and contact the MyUni support team for any needs that you have. So thanks so much, everyone, for joining us. I hope that was a useful introduction and you can start setting up your list and feel a bit more confident in that process. As always, contact us if you need any further help. Yeah, thank you for joining us today.